Boom! What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, it's Joe Caffarelli. How we doing today? Just hanging out, just studying. That's it. Love that new intro. Just made it out right before the stream. Tell me how it is. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, that's it. Hope everybody's having a good day. Hope the music's not too annoying. Yeah. My wife's sleeping. I probably just woke her up. I'm probably going to get my butt kicked. It's not going to be a long stream today. Not going to study for too long, but nonetheless, I still got to study anyways. I got dinner I got to get done very shortly. If you're going to ask, anyways. It's going to be rice with grilled chicken with your one and only cooking. Oh, yeah. And it's gonna be good. Woo! What's going on, everybody? How are we doing today? It's your boy Joe. The world's a mess, but you know what? And it is a mess right now. And I do have a lot to talk about, but I guess I'm not at that point yet where I get it all put together in my big old balding head yet. But soon I will have it all put together, and I promise you, once I do, I will have a lot to talk about. Oh yeah. But for now, I will bore you all with my constant studying of code that I know you all out there love so much. Thank you all for watching so truthfully. Alright, let's get into it before I fall asleep on the stream. Forgot I only had music myself. Web page, it can be visually unappealing on its own. Cascading style sheets and CSS. Language web developers use to style basic content on the web page. To modify colors and types, font size, image elements, positions, and more. CSS tool for the job. Insert and you'll learn how to set up CSS file and structure. Select which HTML element you wish to choose a style. Take a look at the code in the index HTML and observe how it's displayed in the browser. Provide any expression for this type of display. Let's take a look at the power of CSS. So, number 4. Have the chat open. All right, so it's just going over some of the look at that. I'm on a 3-day winning streak. Thrice, senor, thrice. So here's just some of the CSS rule sets here. It's pretty much showing you an inline and like an exterior example of CSS over here inline, and this would be the exterior where you have the selector, declination block, declaration itself, the property, and then the value. Same thing over here. Instead of it's just the opening tag, and then you would stick in the attribute, the declaration for that attribute, the property of the attribute, and the value of the attribute here. Inline. How's everybody doing? Oh yeah, baby. It looks weird when I shake like this though. I don't think I could be a 70s radio host. Nor of that, a radio host at all.
When are you gonna make dinner?
Never. You will never eat again.
Why?
Forever, ever.
Why? Why?
I just want to see what you look like, all skin and bones. That's messed up. No, I'm gonna make it.
I already look like that. You gonna make
grilled chicken and rice. Beans. I'll make it in a minute, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jersey. Sure. Although CSS is a different language from HTML, it's possible to write CSS code directly from HTML using inline styles. To start HTML, you can add this style attribute directly to the opening tag. The style attribute directly to the opening tag. After add the attribute, you can set it to equal the CSS style so you would like to apply to the element. Example, take the attribute equals declaration and then value. Alright, the code in the example above demonstrates how to use inline style and pilot graph. Element has the style attribute within its opening tag. Connects the style attribute set to equal color red, which will set the color of the paragraph text to red within the browser. If you'd like to add more than one style with different styles, simply keep adding the styles attribute. Make sure to end these styles with their semicolon, man. A semicolon. Semicolon. So you can add, obviously here's a example of how you can add multiple declarations. So color, so you have color, value red, font size 20 pixels. You can get in a couple of declarations. It's important to know that inline styles are a quicker way for directly styling HTML elements, but they are rarely used when creating websites. But you may encounter circumstances where inline styling is necessary, so understanding how it works and recognizing it in HTML code is good knowledge to have, so you learn the proper way to add CSS code. Alright. To MD, color to the first paragraph. The first paragraph, two queens, sir. I can spell today, sir. So we got an attribute equals, and then always have your exclamation marks, single quotes or double quotes. Okay, it has to be in either or. Okay. All right, and then declaration, which is called screen followed by a semicolon. Very good. Which therefore then turns that first paragraph green. All right. Internal style sheets is previously stated inline styles are not the best to style HTML. If you wanted to style, for example, multiple H1 elements, you would have to add inline styles to each element manually. In addition, you'll have to also maintain the HTML code when adding additional H1 elements needed. Fortunately, HTML allows you to write CSS code in its own dedicated section with the style element. The style element nested inside the head element. So the head is usually above the body. So this would be not external, but this is underlined, but internal CSS. I guess that would be how this is called, internal CSS. That's what I'm gonna say. Yeah, internal CSS. Yeah. So the CSS code inside the style element is often referred to as internal style sheet. Yeah, so that'd be internal CSS. Internal style sheet has certain benefits and use cases over linear styles, but once again, it's not best practice. We'll get there, we promise. Understanding how to use internal style sheets is nonetheless helpful knowledge to have. To create an internal style sheet, a style element must be placed inside of the head element. Head. Drink. Good drink. Alright, so we have our head element here. Doesn't like that. I could spell, sir. Good sir. Good sir. Oh, I knew it was going to have to do that anyway. Good. An internal style sheet has the benefits of using an internal style sheet has a certain benefits of using case over inline styles, but once again, it's not at that. Adding opening tag session. CSS code in this example above changes all the paragraphs, text to red, and also changes the size to 20 pixels, all the text size to 20 pixels. Note how the syntax in the CSS code matches. For the most part, the syntax used for inline style, the main difference is that you specify which element to apply. So obviously you have your selector, and then this is your declaration. Alright, yeah, so we did that. Inside the style element tag, HTML tag, add the CSS rule targeting the P elements. Next, place the declaration from the inline style into the spell, right? Alright. I guess that's the only P tag we have. Yep, that is the only P tag. Oh wait, there's one more P at the very end. So as you can see, it turned that P tag. Oh, Greeno. Finally, delete the. Let's yeah. Okay. I just wanted us to delete the P, the inline P styling, inline style. External style sheets. Developers avoid mixing code by storing HTML and CSS code in separate files. HTML files contain only HTML code, and CSS files contain only CSS files contain only CSS code. I'm gonna burp. Maybe not. I burped. I told you I was gonna burp. I wasn't trying to lie. Excusez-moi. S'il vous plaît. You can create an external style sheet using a .css file name, extension sheet, like so, a all original style .css sheet. With external style sheets, you can write all CSS code needed to style a page without sacrificing the readability and maintainability of your HTML file. Take a look at the index HTML, cut the CSS code rule set in between the opening and closing tags of style, paste it directly into the file called the CSS style.css, delete the remaining, empty. Because we haven't linked it yet. Good sir. Good sir. We haven't linked it yet. Good sir. Alright, so I'm going to show us how to link it in the next one. Okay. Drink's so satisfying on hot days like this. Drink. You gotta get yourself some drink. Drink. Alright. Setup in syntax. Linking the CSS file perfectly with successor separated structured HTML and styling CSS, but the web page still looks bland. Why? Why don't I have my green paragraphs? And the HTML and CSS codes are in separate files. The files must be linked, otherwise the HTML file won't be able to locate the CSS code and the styling will not apply. Well, I don't know why. Well, it's maybe because it doesn't know what it's doing. You can use the link element to link HTML and CSS files together. The link element must be placed within the head of the HTML file. It is a self-closing tag and requires the following attributes. The pretty much like the reference, the H reference. It's just a reference anchor. Like the anchor element, the value of this attribute must be the address or path of the CSS file. This attribute describes the relationship between the HTML file and the CSS files. Because you are linking a style sheet, the value should be set as style sheet. Okay. When linking the HTML file and the CSS files together, the link element will look like the following. So I'm gonna link. So this is the reason why there's an obvious URL here, probably in this example, is just because we're working probably off of a virtual machine sitting off of Amazon or Google Cloud somewhere. So all of this stuff is probably all virtualized and split up all over the place. So we're not working off of, say, one server here. We're working off of a server that's virtualizing another server that's virtualizing a workspace. That's pretty much it. So, yep. But either way, it'd be like reference, like if you have it in a style sheet folder. If not, it'd be like style CSS, whatever, home style CSS, whatever your path is on your host machine, whatever. Easy, Notice in the example, yeah, it's a URL, just as I was expecting. Specify the path to the style sheet using a URL is one way of linking a style sheet. Yeah, so URLs are perfectly fine. Perfectly fine to link a URL. You can need a lot of bootstrap. When you do bootstrapping a web page, you know what I'm saying? You can. There's like URL bootstraps that you can just punch in and take care of styling your HTML and stuff for you. Specify the path to the style sheet using the URL. One way of linking the style sheet. The style sheet is stored in the same directory as the path of your HTML file. Then you can specify the relative path. There you go. Instead of the URL, like so. So there you go. That's pretty much what I was saying. Excuse me. That wasn't a burp this time. That was a yawn. Using relative path is a very common way of linking your style sheet. All right, let's link this style sheet CSS to the HTML file in the index. Oh. Can't see the keyboard. Oh, there you go. So we gave it a relative path. It's obviously in the same exact directory. Then we give it the relevance, what it is. Description, I guess you want to call it. All right. Great work so far. Understand how to incorporate CSS code to your HTML file, as well as learning some of the key take away great expectable websites in HTML and CSS. CSS. Syntax writing both inline styles and style sheet. Some can use CSS to declarations. style. So we have the style. So we have the style attribute. We have the style element. So style attribute, style element. Just a couple things from element. We also have the link element. So style attribute for inline, style attribute for inline, element for internal, and then the link element for external. Then obviously you can link URLs and relative paths as well. Then we give our relationship attribute as the more commonly as style sheet describing our style sheet. Kind of skipped over HTML because I've already did it. Yeah, I already did all the HTML stuff before. I know a lot of the CSS stuff too, but I never went through it on Codecademy. A long time ago I did some of the HTML stuff, so it just worked. And the same thing with the JavaScript stuff too. I did some of the JavaScript stuff too, but obviously I might want to redo some of the JavaScript stuff just because I'm probably rusty. Like a rusty nail. I look like a rusty nail, don't I? Very rusty. I smell rusty too, probably. You smell like a rusty nail. Alright, types. We're doing selectors here. Alright, remember that declarations are a fundamental part of CSS because they apply this style. Just like the elements. How do you decide which elements will get the style? What a selector. Selector is used to target specific HTML elements to be styled by the declaration. Again, excusez-moi. S'il vous plaît. One selector you can apply or already be familiar. That's cool. That's very correct. With is the type selector. Just like the name suggests, the type selector matches the type of element in a HTML document. In the previous lesson, you changed the color of a paragraph element. This is an instance of using the type selector. The type is P, which comes from the HTML element P. So there you go. Some important notes of a type selector. The type selector does not include the angle brackets, since element types are often referred to by the opening tag name. The type selector is sometimes referred to as tag name or element selector. More drink. More drink. All right. Open the style CSS. CSS. I can't even speak. On line 5, add the rule set using the type selector to target all H1 elements. Inside. Alright. So what we did is we selected all the H1 elements. So the H1 elements. Yeah, it's all the H1 elements. So it was colored maroon. Not Maroon 5, but Maroon. I got about 3 more minutes left. I gotta get dinner started. It's okay. It's okay. How long have I been speaking for? What? About a half hour. Alright, Universal. Ooh. Universal. So the Universal is good to like when you want to get your page all evened out and pretty much like centered and stuff like that. You would just there's like a 3 rules. Man, I can't remember. Why can't I remember the 3 rules? It's like margin 0, padding 0. I know for sure it's margin 0. There's 3 rules, but it's like a good, like, it's like what you do right off the rip for a lot of your web page development and stuff like that. Again, when you're doing everything manually, if you're bootstrapping stuff, a lot of this code's going to be inside of that bootstrap code anyways. If you're doing stuff with like Vue and stuff like that, a lot of that stuff's bootstrapped too as well. So, you know, this is just good basic knowledge to know what you're looking at when you're looking at that bootstrap code. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm at. Cheers. Cheers. All right, so we have the universal targeting all the elements on the page. There's a few specific use cases such as resetting the so there you go, resetting the default browser settings, resetting all children of parent elements. Don't worry if you don't understand the case right now. We'll get to that later on the way of learning. Your learn CSS journey. The universal selector uses the asterisk character in the same place where you specified. We're in the same place where you specify the type selector in the group set like so. So in this example, you'd be selecting pretty much like the entire body for to have the font family Verdana. Pronouncing that right. The code above. In the code above, every text element on the page will have, be changed to Verdana. To see how the universal selector targets all elements on the page, copy the rule above and paste it in the first line of CSS code. So what we did is we bordered every element. So we bordered every HTML element. So every HTML element got a border for 1 pixel, solid for red. So that's what we see here. Excuse me. Oh yeah. Classes. CSS is not limited to selecting elements by their types. As you know, HTML elements can also have attributes. When working with HTML elements and CSS, a class attribute is one of the most common ways to select an element. For example, consider the following HTML. So we have our P element with our attribute. Again, this is just an attribute, but this is the attribute class, right? Again, attribute equals, all right, and then followed by opening and closing quotations. So we have our class attribute as brand, and then whatever our paragraph says, whatever. paragraph element in the example above has the class attribute within the opening tags of a P element. The class attribute is set with the word brand. To select this attribute using CSS, we create a rule set with the class selector. So the class selectors of brand. So the dot, the period is the class selector. Okay, so the period is the class selector. All right, so to select HTML elements by its class using CSS, a period must be prepended to the class name. In the example above, the class name is brand, so the selector would be period class name or dot, whatever you want to refer to as. On line 11 of the, so right here we have our attribute equals title. On line 11, we have the index HTML, we have the h1 element with the class title. Excuse me. Now open the style CSS on line 13 and class selected. This microphone keeps getting my own way. And I'm going to cover that too. So let's go back to it. Let's close that. So our class was this H1 element right here, topfications, and that got changed to that. And the other ones with the same class? Not that I can see. Gotta finish my drink and I'll be done. Alright, so multiple classes. We can use CSS to select an HTML elements class attribute by name, and so far we've selected elements using only one class per element. In every HTML element, if every HTML element has a new class, all the styles and information of HTML elements will require a new class. Luckily enough, it's possible to add more than one class name to an HTML element class attribute. For instance, perhaps there's a heading element that needs to be green and bold. You can write two CSS rule sets like green and bold. So you can write two CSS rule sets like green for the color green. So you would create what it's stating is creating two CSS rule sets for, say, classes. So the name convention green would refer to the class of, and that would implement the color green on whatever HTML element you would give that attribute. Would you give that class attribute of? Same thing with the class attribute bold. That's just a little bit of what that's explaining. Then you can include both these classes in a HTML element like this. So so no need for, it's just a space, a simple space. No commas, no nothing. You would just add both the class attributes to whatever HTML element you want. It doesn't have to be a H1, doesn't have to be whatever. If you have a P element to H2, H3 element, whatever it has. We can add multiple classes to HTML elements, classes, and attributes by separating them by spaces. This enables us to mix and match CSS classes to create many unique styles without writing a custom class for every style combination needed. In the index.html on line 11, there is a H1 element with a class of title. Add a second line add a second name. Oh, undercase this element. Oh. Uppercase. That's what it says. All right. Next step gets the. You see how it's not all uppercase yet. Still regular convention in here. And now we have it all in uppercase right there. IDs. Often it's important to select a single element with CSS to keep its own unique style. If the HTML element needs to be styled uniquely, you can give it a ID using the ID attribute. So there you go. Same thing. ID. So attribute equals. So the attributes ID equals open and close quotation marks with just some kind of naming convention in the middle. No spaces. In contrast to class, which accepts multiple values, and can be used broadly throughout HTML documents, and element ID can only have a single value and can be used only once per page. I will actually, it can be used more than once per page. It can be used the same exact way as classes, almost. Pretty much the same way. But it's just conventionally utilized. You want to use classes when you're doing broad styling, and use ID when you're doing something uniquely with some kind of you can add a class attribute and an ID attribute to a single HTML element too as well. So if you had multiple titles, and say if you had like a hot title that you only needed to add to a single title, you could add an ID hot, color it red, so it could be at the top of the page, whatever, but still have the same styling as everything else. That's just an idea. Select an element's ID with CSS. We prevent, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Prevent the ID name with a number sign, so the hashtag sign for number sign. For instance, if we wanted to select the HTML element with the example above, it would look like this. So it'd be I'm just going to use the hashtag, so it'd be the hashtag / title, same thing. So IDs, hashtags, classes, the period or the dot sign, whatever have you. So the ID name is large title. Therefore, the CSS is selected. It's for the hashtag large titles. Yeah. Almost done with the drink. It's almost over. Got one more sip. One more sip of drink. Alright. Maybe I got us one more slide over. We'll see. Drink is getting to me. That's good. It's good. That means drink is taking pain away. On line 11, so line 11, we have inside the HTML h1 opening tag, and after the class attribute, add the ID title. So just like I said, we can add both class and you can add multiple attributes to a HTML element. Multiple attributes. Okay. Navigate to the style CSS. And then we changed it to family font family, curvaceous. Just like I like my women, curvaceous. That was a half a sip. Half a sip. We got another. Maybe half a sip left. Attribute. I don't think I've actually knocked this one too closely. With this, how to play with this one a little bit. So you may remember that some HTML uses attributes to add extra detail, the functionalities to the elements. Some familiar attributes may be href and source, but there are many more, including class versus. So there's some attributes right here, and then these are the elements that can maintain those attributes. Up in the cheese, let's get to one. If you want, not forcing you, not breaking your legs or nothing. There is a lot of them. Okay. Including class. The attribute selectors can be used to target HTML elements that already contain attributes. The attribute selector can be used. Okay. The attribute selector can be used to target HTML elements that already contain attributes. Elements of the same type can be targeted differently by attributes or attribute values. This, I'm gonna mess that word up. Alterates the need to add new color like class or ID attributes. Attributes can be selected similar to type, class, or IDs. So we have a href attribute. It's color in it. I guess that would be used to like color like hyperlinks or something like that. Yeah, I guess that would be used to like color hyperlinks, all the hyperlinks on a page or something like that. That color, that specific color or something like that. All right, the most basic syntax is an attribute surrounded by square brackets. In the above example, the href reference would target all elements with the href reference attribute to select the color and color it. It can also be more granular. I see how we can be more granular. so you can yeah, so I mean, that's if you really get real specific with your attributes and your values. Yeah. This is getting into overcomplicated. Can get even more granular from there by adding the types and or attribute values. One way is by using the type attribute value. In short, this code selects all the elements where an attribute contains any instance of the specific value. Let's take a look at the code example. Yeah. Oh, it's just okay. The HTML code above renders two images. It's containing a source attribute. I see. Oh, that's pretty dope. So it's pretty much within putting it in that, it's almost like doing it like a what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? There's a specific word I'm looking for where it's like it's looking for this specific reference. So obviously it's going to find it here. So within the source, it's going to look for any source. So it'll look for both sources, but it's going to look for the specific phrase. So that's where it's finding it. It's going to hide it at 50 pixels, and then when it finds it somewhere, it's going to hide it at 100 pixels. Pretty neat. Never thought about doing something like that with any of my code. So, all right, now notice how no new HTML markup like class or ID is needed to be added. And we were still able to modify the styles of each image independently. This is one advantage of using the attribute selector. So I see that. It's a little bit, yeah. I mean, yeah, this is, you would just really have to know what you're looking at to really see what it's trying to do. All right, to use attribute selectors to select a attribute with a href attribute containing the Florence, add the following code to restyle CSS. So where's our A attribute? First one. Yeah, so here it is right here. Here's our A attribute with our H reference. It's going to look at all the H references on the page, and there's a couple. Okay, A H reference, but it's going to look for the specific phrase right here, Florence. All right, it's going to color it in green right here. So this one's going to be colored light green. So there you go, light green. Let's sip that. a drink. But I finished this slide. Next in the style sheet, CSS use the attribute select to select the attribute element that has the H reference attribute containing the Benji, I'll call it Benji, declaration and color with sky blue. Light blue. Alright. Same thing with the next one. Color one. Very good. Alright. So we can leave off right there, guys, at pseudo classes for tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed hanging out with me for some of my beautiful hair. Hope everybody enjoyed hanging out with me for my just studying streams. I know they're not great, they're not awesome, but it's something. It's something. Alright guys, love you all, and I will talk to you all next time. Until then, have a great night.